Welcome to the Resilient Artist Podcast, your go-to space for wellness and success strategies tailored for musicians. Join us each week as we explore tips, tools, and stories to help you thrive in your music career while staying balanced and inspired. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Resilient Artist Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Crystal McGrath.
And I'm Rachel. Today we're talking about something that every artist wants, getting featured in blogs and playlists.
Yeah, landing press and placements isn't just about luck. It takes strategy, consistent, and the right approach.
So we're breaking it all down today so that you can get your music heard by the right audiences, which you are out there, and they want to hear what you have to say. So first things first, why is PR or public relations so important for an independent artist? Well, let's go through a few of these points. Well, there's press and playlists, which equal credibility and new listeners. So the more people know about you, the more listeners you will get. And it's so easy nowadays for independent artists that you don't need a record label to do this for you. You can do a lot of this yourself. Now, blog features can help you build industry connections. It's an opportunity for you to reach out to some of the places and the people that you want to connect with, and again, helps you reach a new audience through new connections. There's power also in social proof that being featured makes you more discoverable. So if you happen to get on a new playlist, or you get on a blog, or maybe you get on a podcast, new listeners start to hear you, and of course, they start to love you. So while playlists are not just about streams, playlists are also about long-term fan growth. You want to get on those playlists to get listened or heard a lot more.
Yeah, totally. And being on more playlists, the algorithm of Spotify, it sees that. It's like it's listening in the back. And if it sees that you're on multiple different people's playlists, then it's going to start pushing you up in the algorithm, just like on social media. Spotify has an algorithm as well. And on this Spotify world, the more you are being played by different places and sources, the more likely it is you're going to be added to an editorial playlist. And that is something that is typically a goal of musicians, because that's where your music really gets heard. That's when you start to see your numbers go from, 5,000 to 20,000 to 60,000 to 300,000.
For sure. Crystal, do you remember the first time one of your songs got featured, and what impact did it have?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember way back when it would get, I was featured in the Fast Forward magazine, and that was pretty exciting because we didn't have social media. So you actually got to see it in print and turn the pages. And I've saved all those because we don't have those anymore. And I really miss the paper days. But that was really cool because you knew that everyone, picked up this paper and everyone was reading it. And that was kind of back in the first days. But, in recent times, I definitely see an impact when I do press campaigns on releases, because you can see when your song is featured on this source, you can see what comes from that. If you're, UTM coding your links and tracking things, and you can see where the people are coming from. So that's something that's really important too, which we can chat about in a whole other episode. But being out there definitely makes a difference. So spending the time to do press campaigns, totally worth it, even if you're just doing it yourself. You don't have to hire a PR agency to do this. I mean, they do help because they have connections and they have the outreach already, so it saves a lot of time, but there's a lot of ways that you can do this yourself.
That's right. So Krista, how do musicians get featured in music blogs?
Yeah, okay. So make some spreadsheets. So if you're doing this yourself, let's talk about it from that perspective. Yes, you can hire an agency to do this. You just hand everything over and they run with it. But for a lot of people, that's not in the budget, and that's totally fine because you can do this yourself. So finding the right blog. So make a spreadsheet of all the blogs you want to be featured on. Use social media to your advantage. There is so many things out there. Once you start searching, all of a sudden, more of that similar kind of thing starts popping up. So start following those blogs that you want to be on, commenting on their posts, really building those relationships prior to just cold pitching them. So if you're on their socials, if you're communicating, commenting, connecting, the likelihood of you being featured on something that they're doing is a lot higher. So yeah, building relationships would be the next point, whether it's on socials or networking. We can't always network if we're promoting a song in Australia and we're in Canada. It's pretty hard to network at events there. So use social media. Like I just said, connect with people, build fans, build community, support the blog. So don't just try to get on the blogs, but actually try to support them and support the artists that they're supporting, because that helps build community. And then before you even start pitching to these places, you want to make sure you have a strong pitch. So really crafting a good press release. If you don't know how to do that, which I'm sure a lot of listeners probably don't, hop online and look up, how do I write a press release? It's going to show you the format. It's going to give you some ideas on what you can incorporate into your press release. The biggest thing is, what is your song called? What does your song sound like? Who do you sound like? What playlist would it be featured on? If you were on a blog, what other blogs are similar to that maybe you can say, I've been featured on this in the past, or that's something that's really good to have, that social proof. Different things like that you can talk about your release in your press release is going to be anything that has value, anything that has social proof, throw it in there. But yeah, like I said, just go online if you're not sure how to do this. Even, use ChatGPT, like use AI to your advantage. Pop it in. This is what I'm doing. Help me make it, or give me some pointers and tips on how I can make this press release stronger. It's there. So I like to say, let's, use our tools that we have on hand, especially when you're doing everything on your own. And then that leads me to having a pro EPK. Your electronic press kit, that's so important. You want to have your bio on there, your press photos that people can easily download, your music, your videos, any links that will help people find more about you. Have your EPK, and then make sure that link is on your press release. And then, like I was saying, we want to make sure, use your past press. So if you've been featured on something before, pull that in, use your testimonials. There's a lot of times as artists, we have all these reviews and testimonials from previous releases, but we're not using them. Why aren't they on your website? Why aren't they in your EPK? Why are they just floating in nowhere land on the internet, right? Let's get those working to our advantage. So post them on your website, post them on your press release, post them on your one sheet, talk about them. XYZ said this about me, and this blog really loved this last song I did, and they said they're excited to work with me again, blah, blah, blah. So really just making sure you're using the past experiences to propel your future experiences forward. And then following up is so important. Making sure you reach out if you haven't heard from someone, because you probably won't hear back from them right away. And you might need to follow up with them a couple times in order to make sure that they got your email, because a lot of emails go to spam. So maybe you follow up with them on a separate outlet. So maybe you hop on Instagram if that's where you find they're really active. You can send them a message there and just say, hey, I sent over a press release. Just wanted to make sure you got that. I have a new song coming out on this date. Just kind of give them the pinpoints. But following up is very important. I've done things myself. I've hired PR companies to do things, and they've both been successful in different ways. And so I think something else is just measuring success. What is your goal? What is your outcome that you want? So when you hire a press or a PR company, you are going to have a different outcome likely than if you're doing it yourself. So keep that in mind too, that the results may be different when you're doing it yourself as opposed to if you're hiring somebody else to do it for you. Just budget-wise, time-wise, all the things. So that's something to keep in mind, is thinking about, okay, what is the outcome I want from this? Because I've done both, and they've both given me different results. And I think just making sure your expectations aren't out of this world so that you're not disappointed is really important.
What do you think is the most common mistake you see artists make when pitching to blogs?
Probably not describing their music and their sound and their similar artists, things like that. Not telling a story. So I think that's the biggest thing. As an artist, you need to tell your story in everything that you do. So not just sending out an email saying, hey, listen to my song, please feature me. Like, next, I don't want to hear that. But if someone sent me something to feature on something I was doing, and they told me a story behind their song, a story about their music, a story about who they are as a person and why I should feature them, that makes a really big difference, because you're coming to the table with something that they can write about, as opposed to just making them do the research for you. These people don't have a lot of time to go digging around and finding research. So the more information you can give someone, the bigger the story you can paint, the better.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Stories always make a difference, don't they?
100%. Yeah. And that's the same with social media too, right? We want to make sure we're telling a story in everything we do.
So let's talk a little bit about how to land on Spotify and Apple Music playlists. So blogs are one thing, but what about getting on playlists? So let's go through a few ways to get on some of these playlists. So first of all, submit early. Spotify allows playlist submissions weeks before release, which is really great. So this is why it's so important for artists to really be on the ball. If you have a release that's coming up, you really have to plan the marketing and how you're going to get your song out there weeks before you're even going to release. That's a big thing that I think a lot of artists miss. Target independent curators. They can boost your numbers for editorial playlists. Engage with playlists, follow them, interact, and support the curators just like you would for social media stuff, building that relationship with these people. Have a social media strategy. Any of the curators for playlists will check your online presence. So what story are you telling? Do you have a unique brand? Do you have a unique angle that you're promoting your music and sharing with your fans? And really encourage your fans to save and share your music, because the more engagement you get from your fans and from listeners on these platforms, the higher chances you will get added to a certain playlist. And then use playlist pitching services, but make sure you're not paying for those pay for play scams. They are out there. So if you are not sure if something is a scam, connect to somebody that you really trust, connect with somebody who understands the playlist game on these places, and just make sure you're not getting taken for a ride. There's a lot of scams out there. It sucks, but we have to be aware of that.
There is a lot of scams and bad situations. I'll just share a story that I had happen to me. I hired a company, they were a PR company, and they were doing playlisting for me. And in that playlisting experience, they ended up getting my song on a couple playlists, but that I don't think were legit, because what happened was that song was distributed through DistroKid. And DistroKid ended up pulling my song from Spotify. It ended up getting removed with all the streams. And I think I had like 50,000 streams on this song. And it ended up getting removed, saying that it was on like bot playlists. And I never did that. I paid somebody, a legit company, to get my song playlisted, and it ended up getting removed from Spotify. Now I was able to get it back and put back up. I just did it through another distributor, and it was fine. After that, it was no problem. But just a heads up, do some research. I still don't know what happened there or why that happened. I will never work with those people again. But yeah, things happen.
Sure do. You got to be so careful nowadays
Yeah.
who you're trusting, who you're working with. Again, that's where relationships come in, right? That's why the more your fans and you develop the relationships, the better those relationships are, the better you know who you're working with. But that's what's so great about being an independent artist nowadays. You can do a lot of this on your own so that you don't have to trust other people to do it for you.
Totally. So just really make sure you're researching the right blogs, building good relationships, pitch smart, and don't forget about social proof, because that is what's going to propel you forward. Is if you can show evidence that you're doing things out there, then people are going to want to talk about you.
That's right. Remember, for your playlist, start early, engage with the curators, and get your fans involved in the process.
Yeah. And if you guys want more strategies for growing your music career, make sure you check out our book, The Resilient Artist. You can find it on Amazon and on our website.
And we love to hear from you. We want to know what you loved about the podcast, maybe what you loved about the book. So shoot us over some message on your socials as well. And we would really love to know, what's your dream blog or playlist feature, or have you been featured? Share that link with us as well.
Thanks again so much for listening. Make sure you're following us on social. We can't wait to chat with you again next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Resilient Artist Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, like, and share this podcast with your fellow musicians. Your support helps us grow and reach more artists just like you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review to let us know what you think. Ready to take your wellness journey to the next level? Join the Artist Wellness Collective at www.artistwellnesscollective.com for more resources, community, and support designed to help musicians thrive. Until next time, keep creating and living your best artistic life.